Hello everybody. Hi. I just finished playing a lot of Celeste. I mean, I guess 5 hours straight doesn't seem like a lot if you're one of those people that plays video games for 10 or 12 hours at a time. But a game that physically intensive, over 5 hours without a break, has left my hands feeling so sore. Which I guess is a good sign. It was a fun game. I'm going to go back and play some more of it tomorrow, but I'm not here to talk about video games. I'm here to talk about cameras. Yeah, the other thing that I give a shit about. Not talking about relationships, not talking about RPGs. Guess it must be photography. I went to shoot my entire kind of like, here's my camera collection vlog. But like, I have a lot of cameras and I didn't want to go into like a great amount of detail for them. So I'm just focusing today on the film cameras. So if it takes film, whether it's instant or 35 millimeter or 120, I talk about it today. I have 6 cameras. Anyway, I've got some cameras that I'm going to show you, and I talk a little bit about each one. Now, if you're looking for like a deep technical dive into any given one of these cameras, you will be disappointed. I pretty much just tell a little story about each one, how I got it, what I've been using it for, how long I've had it, some personal anecdote about it, and then we move on. But if you're curious about any of these cameras, do a little bit more research. They're all super cool. I love all of them. I don't have any cameras that I'm like, I wish I hadn't bought this. So if it's in the video, consider that a tacit approval from me if you're interested in either buying a new camera or getting into film photography. These are all great cameras, though your mileage may vary depending on what you're looking for. But yeah, ask questions in the comments. Go and do your own research if you're curious about anything to do with these cameras or my experience with film photography in general. As you might have realized, I really like talking about photography. So yeah, let's go take a look at like a half of my camera collection, shall we? The first two cameras that I have here are an Asahi Pentax K1000 and a Minolta XD. I started with these ones because that Asahi Pentax on the right there, that K1000 is the first film camera I ever owned. It was given to me by a friend, by Emily's mom, actually, and I shot, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 rolls on it over the course of a winter and the following spring. So I shot a bunch with that Pentax. There is still a roll of film in there with 6 out of the 24 shots taken. And someday I will get around to finishing that roll. But as you'll see, I have a lot more film cameras to play with now. So the Minolta on the left is an eBay find. And I actually ended up buying this Minolta because I had lenses for it, including the 50 millimeter that it's wearing right now. I had a bunch of lenses for it that I had adapted for my Sony digital camera, which was the first kind of significant digital camera I had owned since the early 2000s. And when I bought it, I bought a bunch of lenses off of eBay, Minolta lenses, and I had adapted them for my Sony. This is actually kind of a cool way that you can learn how to use manual lenses and buy a bunch of different lenses, but at a low cost if you're just getting into digital photography. So you can buy a reasonably expensive body like a Sony Alpha, one of the A6000 line or the A7 line, and you can buy an adapter for literally $30, and you can adapt old glass to it. And these old lenses, whether they're Pentax or Minolta or whatever, you can often get pretty decent glass for not that much, and it's a great way to learn how to use manual glass and practice your photography skills. I bought this Minolta and I used it for maybe 4 or 5 months before realizing that there was a light leak. Now, a light leak is usually when the foam seals in the camera go bad and they crumble or they crack and it lets light into the film chamber. And this Minolta, unfortunately, is going to need some repairs before I ever use it again. They're both really cute little compact cameras, 35 millimeter film, so you can buy whatever cheapy color film you want and you can get it developed at any lab. It's pretty much the last holdout of the inexpensive film universe. I think the XD cost me $100 on eBay. The Pentax cost me nothing, but you can get them for $50 and then another 50 or 60 for the lens on eBay. You'll find these kinds of cameras in pawn shops all over the place. And whenever anybody asks me, how should I get into film photography? I say, get yourself a Pentax K1000, get yourself a cheap 50mm lens, buy the cheapest color film you can find, and just practice like crazy. These two cameras don't get a lot of use, but I look back at them very fondly, sitting on my shelf, and think about all of the great photos that I've taken and the road through film that they've taken me on. This camera and the next few cameras I'm going to show you, I bought them all within the span of about 18 months or so, kind of kicking off my current obsession with film and film cameras. This is a Pentax T2 from the mid to late 90s. It's an automatic camera, which means that you don't have to wind the film. It automatically advances each frame for you. It's a quintessential 90s point and shoot. The glass that's built into it is beautiful. It's a weird focal length. It's a 38mm lens. It's a rangefinder, which means when you look into the little box in the top, you're not seeing what the lens is seeing. So there have been a few mishaps that I've had with this camera, but the flash is really good, which is normally not a thing that people say about cameras, especially point and shoots. And the lens itself is something special on here. Since I bought this about 18 months or so ago, maybe a little less, I have put dozens of rolls through it. At least 30 rolls by now of film. And usually what I'll put in here is color film and just the cheap stuff. Fuji color. It's a great little camera to have in your pocket to shoot quickly through a roll of film, and it doesn't take up a lot of space. I'll often bring this one to parties or to places where there are lots of people so that I can grab snapshots and not worry people about the giant camera that I'm lugging around. So this is the Pentax T2. It's a really popular point and shoot. It's honestly way more expensive on eBay than it should be. I think because a bunch of celebrities got all like excited about them and posted them on their Instagram. It's for good reason. It's a really nice little photo taking machine, and one that I carry around with me in addition to other cameras all the time. This is my favorite 35mm camera. I love it so much. It is an iconic classic for a reason. It is used the world over and has been for decades. This is the Leica M6. The M series of Leica cameras has been used going back to the late 40s, I think. And I always wanted to own one. I got this one from a camera dealer in Japan, and it is in such magnificent shape. This particular camera is a Leica M6 TTL, which is the slightly later model of the 6. You wouldn't know to look at it, but it's actually quite heavy. The body is made almost entirely of metal. It's a 35mm camera, and I have a handful of lenses for it. That right there is the 50mm Summilux, which is one of 4 Leica lenses that I have. Thankfully, the Leica lenses, the M mount, I can use these for the Leica M10, which I'll show you when I do the digital cameras. But this is a little bigger than the Pentax. It's a rangefinder like the Pentax. So again, you're seeing through the little glass window in the corner rather than looking through the lens like you would with an SLR. And everything about it is manual, save for the fact that it meters on its own. So it checks the light levels around it and tells me what I should be adjusting to get the right exposure. I shoot 99% of the time, I shoot black and white on here. Right now it has a roll of very sensitive 3200 Ilford Delta in there. It means that the photos that come out of it are going to be pretty grainy, but because of the quality of the glass and because this is a Leica, they're going to end up looking real nice. So this is the Leica M6. Outside of the Pentax as a point and shoot camera, this is probably the 35mm, probably the film camera that I use the most. I'm really proud to own this camera, and I know I'm going to be using it for years and years to come. I had to zoom out to be able to fit this camera in the frame. This is the first of 2 medium format cameras that I have. They're both 6x7, and medium format means they use a different, much larger type of film. You might have seen me scanning some of this film in the Scanning Photos vlog. So this is the Mamiya 7 II, and I love this camera. This guy is great for landscape photography and for kind of bigger portraits. Like if I want to take a portrait of someone where it's their whole body or from the waist up, the Mamiya is a great choice. I have 2 lenses for it. They're both pretty close in focal length. They're a 65mm and an 80mm. And you have to adjust those because that focal length is actually quite a bit shorter. These are much wider lenses by about half. That 65 is really more like a 33 millimeter lens on a 35 millimeter body. So they take wider photos than you'd think. This is not a camera for tight close-up portraits. I think right now the photos from the Mamiya that I'm the most proud of are the ones that I took in Virginia. I took a bunch in the Shenandoah National Park using this camera, and it's super fun. For a medium format camera, despite being big, it's quite light. What I like about it is it's a good carrying around camera. This is my first medium format camera, and I love it to death. The only thing about the Mamiya is that the body itself is like a little fragile. It's mostly made out of plastic, and the shutter of this camera, it's weird, the shutter is actually in the lens. So the body itself basically just holds and advances the film and does metering. It's the lenses that do all the hard work. So the body's not that expensive, but the lenses are quite a bit more expensive than you would expect if you're going buying cameras on eBay. It's a little bit finicky. It's taken some work to get to know it, but now that I'm comfortable with it, I will always pick it up when I know that I'm going to be shooting outside. This is the Pentax 672. It is a beast. It weighs a figurative ton. It's made out of metal and wood, as you can see. And this is a medium format 6x7 camera, as the name would indicate. And this is my newest film camera. This guy is, unlike the Mamiya, very much a portrait and studio style camera, though I've taken it out in the wild once or twice. It's built like a tank, and it weighs about as much as one. I've got a 165 and a 105 millimeter lens for these, which again adapts quite a bit wider. So it tends to be better for taking portraits from kind of the shoulder up, though I do have some extension tubes which allow me to take much closer pictures with it. You'll see some of these portraits on my Instagram, mainly of Blue Jay, though I took some of Tyson the other day, and I love this camera. I've only shot 3 rolls with it, so like less than 30 pictures, but I'm already in love with it. It's heavy and feels old and intense, and it's actually really fun to use. I can't wait to master it. It's still a little bit, there's some things about this camera, like you need to be able to shoot at 125th of a second or faster, or else you tend to risk there being some mirror related shake. So it's hard to get stuff in focus or sharp, but when you do, especially if you're helped with like a flash or like really good lighting, it can be really phenomenal. I cannot wait until the summer so I can take this guy out and I can shoot with it in the daylight. I am definitely going to be bringing this to a few conventions in the coming year, despite the fact that it weighs 1 million pounds. So right now, I would say that this is probably my favorite camera that I have, which isn't really fair because it's my newest camera, but that's how it goes. Honorable mention goes to these two. These are instant cameras. They both take Fuji instant film. The one on the left is Fuji Mini 90, and the one on the right is a Fuji Square Instax camera. They're both essentially like what you would think of as Polaroids. One takes credit card sized photos and one takes little square photos. Can you guess which is which? These guys don't get used a ton, but they're really fun for events. Usually I end up taking pictures and then giving them away. So these guys are cute. I like carrying them around sometimes in addition to another more serious camera, especially if I'm going somewhere where I anticipate I will want to take pictures of people and then let them have those pictures. I took the Instax Mini 90 on the left to Burning Man and took like 30 or 40 photos, of which I have none. And amazingly, it survived. It's a little beat up. You can kind of see some grunge on it still, but it's a nice little camera, and it has served me loyally for many years. The Square camera, I've shot maybe 50 or 60 photos with it so far, and most of them are like most Polaroid photos in a box somewhere, but I do dig them up and take a look at them every once in a while. Kind of fun physicalization of film. I don't do a lot of printing, so it's nice to have cameras that will do that for me, and whose format I don't have a choice. I just get the little photos. So there they are, my tiny filmy boys. Well, maybe not all that tiny. Some of them are quite large. What I love about having cameras and doing photography is that now I have a physical object that I have used to create captured memories, right? I can look at my Leica and I can remember the weekend that I got it. I can remember shooting at PAX. I can remember where I bought each and every one of the lenses and something cool that I've shot with every one of them. It's just such a nice feeling having a physical object. And I think film really kind of cranks that up. It's not just about the aesthetic, but about the experience of taking the photo. So those are my tools when we're talking about film photography. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions or you're curious about stuff or you just want to talk photography, hit me up in the comments or tweet at me. I love chatting about it. I hope you enjoyed today's video and that you like checking out my cameras. We'll do the digital ones maybe after Christmas when I get back. We'll see how much time we have. It's been a little, I'm trying to think of how to shoot the one that, so one of my digital cameras is filming me right now. So I got to figure out if I can switch, or maybe I'll get a mirror. I don't know, we'll figure it out. Anyway, thanks for watching everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow.